Hey guys, welcome back to Flyers to Joe's Workshop. What we're going to start here working on is a Baja Hobbies L39 XXL. And I want to show you guys what I do mods on this. I've already owned one of these this year. I did some of these mods. I really enjoyed the mods. And I want to bring you guys along why I did those mods and why we're doing them again. So the old one right here through this saddle, it's a two-piece wing tube because of the dihedral. This was having a problem that this just wasn't strong enough and they were tacoing. So they had sent a retrofit kit that was gonna, you pop this out, put this in and strengthen that section up. There was some wing saddle pieces and things like that. Well, when I was doing that build, I realized where the fuel tank was, and this fuel tank is a 6,000 cc fuel tank. It's over 1.5 gallons, and it sits right here in this saddle, which is really in front of the CG. And I knew being this heavy that it was going to make it fly throughout the flight a little off. Not horribly, but I kind of wanted to change it. So what I had come up with was their part that they sent me was 6 ounces. Mine being 1/4 inch ply, which is a very special ply. It's actually something I make. It is hard birch ply, fiberglass, and light ply vacuum bagged together. This part weighs 4 ounces. So that was a savings of 2 ounces. Yes, I'm gonna have to actually have a piece of plywood in here, but I really figured that I was going to be extremely close to the same weight. Plus I was gonna cure some of the CG issues. And so I didn't know if I was going to do it to the new one because they've really supported the inside, a lot more carbon fiber in the belly. They even fiberglassed in that new part so that that thing cannot break. They did a great job putting it in, which is going to be extra fun to take out. But I know how much it helped my last aircraft. I set it up on the X-Scoy scales when I was CGing it, and I fill it and I empty it at the same time to see how much it changes the CG. And it was very minimal compared to the old way. So we're gonna go ahead and do that to this one and a few other couple little mods that I found on this aircraft to really help it work perfectly. So want to say a big thanks to Baja Hobbies for getting this plane to me. Really enjoying it and can't wait to get these mods done. So thanks a lot, guys, for joining along, and hopefully you guys will like and subscribe, and we'll get to the next stage. Thanks, guys. Alrighty, guys, next stage to getting this thing put in here. I have a ton of flush cut saws. Absolutely love them all. They've all got a different application. This new Milwaukee one, this is actually the old version. It actually does not. It has the old bolt in the bottom of it, and I really like it because it's so small. I can really get back in here and control it in the back, especially one-handed right now. The big thing to remember too, as you guys do these repairs, make sure that your wing tubes are in your sockets, because you don't want to distort that wing tube as you're putting in the new part. That's something that can really mess you up. So again, you're just going to take some kind of a flush cut here. And I'm going to purposely not cut right to the edge of the fiberglass so I don't ruin that. And then I'm going to sand it out. Before, the old way is to just knock these parts right out. You can take a hammer, get a little hammer here, and a dowel, okay? If this was not fiberglassed in, and if I whacked it like that, it would pop it off. These old ones down in here, you gotta hit hard, okay? You're trying to crack that, but I I'm just going to slowly work all these parts out of here, and then I'm going to sand it right down. That one actually popped right off. You'll see how it still has some of the Cavasil hooked onto it. But slowly just popping this out and sanding it down so I do not ruin the fiberglass or the carbon fiber. You do not want to cut through that. So we'll bring you back when we get to the next stage. Hey guys, so just knocking this thing out. So what I've done is I've cut along the front here with the flush cut. And then sometimes it doesn't cut all the way through because I'm trying to stay a little ways away from the edge. And then I know it's just attached by that fiberglass, so I'm just ripping it off. This little blade right here from Milwaukee, a little tiny narrow one. The big wide one was super nice for coming up along the sides. And then I just sat there and plunged a series of small holes up along that top one because your standard blades are nice and wide, and so they're really difficult to use. Same with down here. I just stayed above the tube, and then what I'm doing is the next stage I'll come in here and stick a vacuum inside the airplane. It's kind of fun doing it one-handed. And then I'll just slowly use my drum to clean that down. Now, I'm really not trying to make it absolutely too perfect. I don't mind if there's a little bit left. I'm just trying to get it good enough that I'm really attached to the frame. So hopefully this is helping. On to the next. Okay, we've got this cleaned up as much as possible here. I'm going to see that it's pretty close. Luckily no holes on the outside. That's a great thing. So, you know, it's also a real debate. I know you guys are going to say, man, why didn't you just leave the other one and just cut off the ears and glue this one to it? Yeah, you could. But it's just me. I mean, if you haven't knocked things out of fiberglass fuselages before, I would probably recommend to go that way. It would really be nice, but where they touch the glass, that's going to be a big edge. So, I mean, it could work either way. It's just me being me. So, but you can see that fits nice and tight, doesn't distort the body. We're going to glue this in, and then we're going to do another piece back here. That goes behind. Oop, fell out. That's where it went. So we're going to have another piece here that goes right back in here that is just going to glue to this. I don't really want to knock out this servo gear door thing. So I'm just going to make this thing fit perfectly because it's got so much glue area. I trust that. I'll probably put a couple of little dowels, wood dowels in it. Plus, once you put in the servos, you're going to have screws in there, and it's fine. So that piece right there is just to hold the little tray that the tank can sit on that has some Velcro or some Gorilla Glue so that it can't slop back and forth at all. But that also just keeps that tank aligned nice and tight. So we're going to go ahead and glue this in, and then we'll get to the next piece. Okay, we got the first layer of Hysol on there. I just always try to keep it as thin as possible, but a nice little tiny fillet. You should just use my finger to make sure it's a tight fillet. So, looks pretty good. Let that dry, then we'll put the front back in. Okay, before we glue this in, just kind of want to show you we're done here. So it's going to fit this nice big tank right there, kind of back over the CG now. So That piece gets glued in with some Hysol. Then we'll have a little flat tray that is going to be sitting right back here. That is going to use to kind of glue that tank in position. I like to secure my tanks even on jets. Even though I strap them all the way around, things like that, I just like them super secure. So get that done tonight and we'll be cruising. Alrighty, one of the other problems here was this door bracket hooking into the servo. When it was that close down there, didn't have enough power when you're flying to push this out, even with a 7955, 300 ounce servo. So I've moved this 1 1/4 inches from the, no, 1 1/8 inches from the original location, re-Hysoled those on. See, I put a little bit of carbon there. When I was popping those off, I dug into it a little bit. Didn't dig in enough to come out the other side, but just make sure that's nice and supported. Those feel great. Next thing to address here was this door where it doesn't have, 3 hinges on it. The door is extremely flexible, which isn't horrible, but when I came up to speed on the last one, this door, when you'd fly by, would be flapping. So all I'm going to do here is run 2 carbon fiber rods, and then I like to add one right in here for support and one right inside here for support. They did change. There's a lot more carbon fiber here in this side. It's hard to get the camera up in there to show you, but move this around here. You can see a lot more carbon, but it's still only 1 layer. So I'm going to go ahead and add those rods back in there. Use a little bit of Hysol to hold those in. And that really just stiffens up that nose. And it really helped on the last one. So let's get on to that. Hey guys, want to show you how I'm doing my hatches. I'm using their standard little L brackets that they give with a 3mm. They don't send the little socket, but I like to use the socket heads from Micro Fasteners, 3mm by 15s with a washer, and then their 3mm button heads. You kind of have to oval just a little bit to get everything to align perfectly. And then I do use servo sticky tape. I use thick double-sided sticky tape on these. And then I know that a lot of people just use a little wood screw into these, and that is something that for me I just don't like. So I had to give a little bit of the sand on the edge to make it all fit down in there nicely. It does now. All I do is, this is the exact same size as my 440 screw. I'm going to drill through. Okay. Then the little blind nuts I really like. I use the drill bit that's exactly the same size as the blind nut. Okay. Oops, need one other tool. You can use a couple of different tools here. I like this old one that's old Craftsman wrench that works really nice for this. So I really like Tight Bond medium here, or just a CA. I put just 2 little dots on there. Yeah, you don't want to drop it in to for the airplane. Retry this. Then I like just a scrap piece of wood so that I don't damage anything. Lightly squeeze that up in. Make sure it's nice and flush. Then what I like to do is use a longer screw here. Thread it down in there to make sure that I've got it aligned. That really just helps me to make sure that it's right. Now we're going to quickly get these other ones done. Don't need a lot of glue on them, I'll tell you that. So I try not to squeeze too much, like this one's not seating up in there just right. There it goes. You'll see it if they kind of come up in there crooked, but that's again where I like to take the screw, make sure that it's parallel, make sure it's clean. If you need to knock it out right now, because it's, you know, not cured CA, then it's really easy to knock out. And again, in the past, I've, you know, drilled my holes to put the wood screws in and then hardened them and things like that. And that all works, but it's just one of those little details that doesn't take a ton of time to do. But I feel it's worth it. You'll see it when they're done. The little 440 button heads look really nice. They just match. And it's just pretty. It's clean. Nice part is with micro fasteners, these guys have the same little button heads in black. So sometimes if I'm doing certain airplanes, I'll use different colors. Making sure that's nice and seated. There you go. Just like that. And that's how they're all very quickly aligned. Even if they drilled a hole in there for a little wood screw when they were assembling the airplane, you can fit that right through there. Looks great. And now I will come through once I finish up my wiring and connect this into my harness. I'll blue Loctite all these. One thing I really like for blue Loctite is the sticks, blue and red. I really like the blue. Want to be able to get my stuff back apart without ruining these little T-nuts. So hopefully that helps you. All right, today we're working on the gear. So some nice little changes that have happened that I really like and don't love is the tubes. There used to be some big holes down in between here and here that you could slide the wires up into the front. Well, they've got one tiny one there now and one tiny one right there for all your servos and stuff like that, your retracts to tuck up underneath. So it's great to see this much more carbon fiber through this area where the wing was a little bit weak. Not horrible, but I really enjoy that change. So what I'm doing is I'm pre-drilling my holes, and then I'm putting some 2.5 millimeter T-nuts in the bottom, and then using a 2.5 millimeter by 25 millimeter stainless steel screw. And then I built these little brackets here because they have a small screw just right through the electric for the wires for the brakes, and I didn't really love that, so I made these little brass spots. Just a piece of brass wrapped around a screwdriver and then drill a small hole and cut it off, and it works great. And then I like just some silver tape to hold that all together with my light. And then I do have a little wire loom bracket with a small 2 millimeter servo screw on there. And then a nice big piece of heat shrink so that that wire is not chafing as I'm sliding my wings on and off in the future. Then we've got, hopefully you can see this, spin this around, right there. The glue tab with 2 zip ties holding the wires in. Kind of tucks it all nice and tight. And I'll retract the retracts here real quick and show you that this does not hit. So all I did, because there's no big holes in this former except for back here, which I didn't want because of long wires. And I needed to come right through there anyways with the retracts and the brake stuff. So I drilled one small 1/8 inch hole with a zip tie on it. Now let's retract that and show you how it clears. So as you'll notice, as that goes down through there, it's really close, but that's as far back as I can get those, because you have to be careful that you pushed your retracts as far in as you can because of clearance. Especially once I adjusted this bolt here to tow the wheels with the fuselage. If you're not, you're towed really far in. So once you adjust them, it gets really close there to that saddle. But you'll see here, we've got room underneath that light. Nothing's getting struck. And it's close, but it works. Next, we're going to attach on this little door and this one little piece right here. I just test fitted this one real quick. This goes in right there. That's why you need to leave this wire with your brakes and your light a little bit loose, but it works great, just like that. Let's retract them up and I'll show you. There you go. Pretty simple. Oh, I also did not love how the gear was leaned out too much. And so I am putting one heavy, not giant, but one heavy screw to realign that gear. It kind of leans down a little too much for my liking. And when you're talking an airplane that's going to be 72 to 78 pounds, I think that can really wear on that gear. So did that little change. Yes, it looks like it's still a little towed out, but it's a lot worse the other way. But if you tow it in more, the problem that happens is the way that that retract fits through the fuse right here, and that wing slides over that, you're going to have to start grinding this out and start grinding the wing a little too much. With this one, I'm still going to have to barely touch the wing, but not bad at all. All right, guys. I want to call this a tip that I've learned over the years. So whenever I'm drilling through this plywood, these big holes to get in my T-nuts so that I can do my screws that I want. They do send some wood screws with this, so these guys do send some wood screws with this landing gear. I just really like T-nuts so that I can Loctite stuff. Either way, but a big key that I've learned over the years is I set my gear in here, I pre-drilled to align everything perfectly. Now I'm going to drill these back out to put in the T-nuts. But one thing, if you spin it forward, you'll delam this plywood a lot of times. So I like to go in reverse first and literally burn it right down in there. Now it's a nice top. Okay. Much, much better. You're not going to break up the plywood as much. Just a little help there. So much, much nicer. You're not tearing up that plywood. Hopefully that helps you guys. Okay, this next little modification that you got to do is to get the wings to go on with that retract motor. The next thing you got to do is that retract motor, because we put a little shim to straighten up the gear. Not a ton, just a light washer. You got to drill out that one little hole. Try to show you this kind of one-handed here. See, as those alignment pins come in, it hits right there. So it's a pretty simple fix. It's a really simple fix here. All you got to do is open this up just barely, right like that. And that's all it needs. Don't cut too much because you don't want to bust this whole substructure, but just a little tiny bit out of there. Get that done with a little drum sander on a Dremel and be right back. Hitting now today. Oh, right there on the front of that little box. Gotta shave just a little bit more on that one. Okay, I just verified the other wing, and it's gonna fit the exact same way. So just a light towards the front. Just, it's about 3/16 there and an 1/8 on the front is what I'm having to do. So not bad. Okay, as you see there, just barely open that thing up. Oops. And it just barely clears that retract. Fits right on beautifully. Okay, just want to show you this before we install the tray. So there's a piece of wood that goes in here with some screws going down through it, and then your tank will sit on there. You do have two little slots right there for the Velcro to go around. And then the Velcro goes around this tray to hold it down. And then I also do like to use a little bit of shoe goo to hold my tanks in their place. Not a ton. But, so what I've done is I've added some basswood here and CA'd that in place. And that should be it for the tank tray. Show you it when the tank's installed. Thanks. Just want to give a little update on this. So light controller is going to be underneath. Everything's run. They've made this out of a light ply so that it's just nice and clean. Pop that in there. But you know, I love these hatches because you can hide a big mess underneath there, but I still like it nice and tidy so that things aren't flopping around. There's your fuel tank system. Your fueler's just tucked into these, they're like a phone line sticky thing that has a nice little hole in them. Really love it. Your on-off valves right here, so you're never forgetting to turn it off when you're filling up the airplane. You've got a nice little flush vent for the tank. Really loving how that's coming together. Okay, before we do CG, I really like the X-Gloy for these bigger, heavier airplanes. Show you guys my numbers here that I've come up with. We are distance from front mains, 1345, distance to CG, 159, distance from mains, 1549. Now that distance from mains, remember, is to right there to the tip of the nose. So this is something that I found quite interesting once, is they always talk about leveling the airplane. Well, with this airplane, do we level it off the tail, or do we level it off the wings? Because if the wings, see, I'm sitting at 1 degree right now, and the tail is sitting at 0. It dramatically does change your CG. I will tell you that the angle of the airplane really plays a role in this. That's the reason my tank change, where that tank sits. All those little things are really different. But last airplane I had like this, I set it up, my CG, based off of the elevator at 0. And I only had a couple of clicks of down trim. I was very happy with how it flew. So we're just letting these warm up. They talk about always letting this run for a few minutes before you do anything with it. And I always do. I always just like to set and let it tear out before I set it up on the airplane. So get going here and show you the results. Okay, so we just got this taped onto the front because what I do is just weigh that bag, and then I like to pour it right up in that little hole. So I'll stand it on its nose and pour it up in there so it's as far forward as you can get it. So with the weight added, we are 0.02 nose heavy. This is no fuel. Let's see what we are weight-wise. So no fuel on this airplane, ready to fly, is 67 pounds, 66 ounces. I'm going to fuel this up and show you how the CG changes very little with this change. Okay, as you see, we got a full tank of fuel. I'm going to set this down when I go grab the canopy. And so you guys see that I don't play with anything. I do also really like to just glue the canopy, the cockpit in it. It needs the weight. So now you can see We're 0.07 of an ounce nose heavy now because of that change. So what a huge difference in flight characteristics. It's a lot of work to do it, but I think it's really worth it. So these ordinances is 15 ounces per side, so almost 2 pounds. Also, we'll change that here. So now we are 78 pounds, 2 ounces, ready to fly on this one. So very, very happy. We're going to take those ordinances off and show you the weight. I think the ordinances are really neat to have. You know, they really do a beautiful job on them. I'm not a huge fan of ordinances, but I like to have them. I think it's neat. I fly with them every once in a while. So without ordinances, all up weight of this bird is 76 pounds, 17 ounces with fuel. So very happy with it. King Tech 320 should fly absolutely amazing. Okay, before maiden flight, we wanted to glue in the lead in the nose. So what I do is I just mix up some epoxy and then pour my BBs together, stir them together. And then what I also do is use some poster board that's chopped up so that I dump it down in there and it'll stay in its place. Then you can pull these back out. Just makes a nice little ooze. And you can see that we're now balanced. Let's try to get the light down in there. So there you go. That way when you're done, pull these back out and everything's nice and clean. Again, this is one of the scariest things, to put your wing tubes in, strap it up to something, and try not to bump the thing for the night. So we're going to do a quick final thoughts, the changes that we've done in case you guys missed something. And awesome. Okay guys, as we're wrapping this build up and I was putting the video together, I realized I misspoke on some things and I really want to address that. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you. I really appreciate it. And, you know, I'm just going to say I'm human. I will misspeak, but whenever I catch it, I want to address it. I even don't mind if I misspeak every once in a while. If I say it's a screw and it was supposed to be a washer. It's just me having fun, and I hope you guys are enjoying this content, and I hope you guys are learning. And I'm always wanting to learn, and that's what makes me a better pilot, makes me a better everything. Like, I just love to learn. So let's address this. So first thing, now I like to set my CG at 27% of my math of Mac. I've seen it 100 times debated over the years about how to figure out Mac. I have something that's worked for me. It's a very rudimentary CG. I've talked about it in the past. And everybody has differences. So that's how it is. 27% is where I like to fly, which was the 159 millimeters on the XCOI scales. If you like to fly at 25%, I did figure that one out, and it was 171 millimeters. So hopefully that helps you if you like to fly at that nose heavy airplane. There's nothing wrong. Again, over the years of flying for 28 years, I've seen all sorts of differences, and I think they're all great. Everybody has a different style. So I never want to say I'm the expert. I'm just Joe. I'm just having fun with the hobby. I love the hobby. I'm passionate about it. So hopefully you guys are joining along. Next thing. Yes, I did have a shoulder surgery in this time period of starting the airplane. And so you've seen me in a sling as we're going along. And I really want to say thank you to my wife, my family, and my friends that have stopped over to help me keep progressing. I just didn't want to sit on a couch. It's just hard for me to sit around. I mean, yeah, we like to watch so many movies, but you get burned out. So really want to say thank you to all those people that have helped out, especially my wife. She has been awesome through this. Shoulder surgery went super great and couldn't ask for any better. So to the next thing. Now, I think I misspoke here, but just want to address it. Lead shot epoxied up into the nose was 2 pounds, 1.6 ounces. The lead that is sitting on the sticky leads that I can remove as I play with things CG wise is 1 pound, 5 ounces. Now, so with that said, the airplane weighed 67 pounds, 0.66. Now that's on the XCOI scales. I learned something about the XCOI scales. They're very accurate. And if you set things up we talk about the incidence of the airplane. That's super critical. And again, that's why I talked about, I set my CGs based off of my wing. Off of my elevators, not my wing. That could change things. If you guys are setting up the exact same model and you're setting your incidence at 0 on the wing, that changes the CG quite a bit. So just to let you guys know, but that 0.66, it takes 99 to get to a pound, okay? So if it is 0.05, that is exactly 1 ounce or 28.35 grams. So hopefully that helps you guys with your XCOI scales to understand it a little bit more. I constantly am learning about my tools. I'm trying to always make sure I'm getting it as accurate as possible. That really helps to reduplicate something when you build it or as you fine tune it. As I fine tune this airplane, I do want to do another video about what we ended up with. If we remove weight or we add weight, I want to tell you guys what I did. So with that, the airplane weighed in, no fuel, at 67 pounds, 0.66. Now, with fuel and ordnances, the air and everything on it was 78 pounds, 0.02, okay? So without the ordnances, the airplane weighs in at 76 pounds, 0.17. So to also answer how much difference in between no fuel and fuel CG wise, that takes this airplane, I said it was 0.02 nose heavy, and then with fuel it was 0.07. So that difference of 0.05 equaled 1 ounce or 28.35 grams. Just getting real exact, and I think some people like the exact. Some guys are like, dude, you're just talking. Well, I hope the guys that are after the detailed stuff appreciate it, and the other guys, I hope you guys learn something new. That's what I'm here to do. That's what I love about doing these videos in the Fly RC Joe's workshop. We're always learning. And if you guys have a comment about it, or you guys think I misspoke, please comment, because there's only one way to learn in build videos and things like that, is to show your faults and things like that. So hopefully this helps. We're going to do a quick walk around the airplane and show you guys some little details that I think we missed, and we'll start going. Here we go. So batteries are secured with Velcro. I really like these phone deals because you can tuck them in there. You don't have to click them. It holds your wires really nice. Now, that Pulse 5000 battery is for my retracts. I know that is absolute overkill for my retracts. I understand that. But it's just me. I don't like to tie my flight pack into my retracts if something bound up or a controller went nuts. I would rather land the airplane with no gear than crash the airplane. So to also address these carbon rods that we put in to stiffen this up, that was from Peter at Baja Hobbies, and really thank you for that suggestion. It worked out really good. Coming around here, the flight batteries on this airplane are Thunder Power 5000s, and really say thank you to Thunder Power for those batteries. I am not a sponsored pilot, but thanks for their great customer service is what I'm trying to say to people. So we put in 2 rods here, and they're high-soled, and we did 2 rods on the door. This really helped on the last airplane to shut that door and keep it shut throughout the flight. Coming along here, we are flying a King Tech 320 G4, and really want to say thanks to King Tech for great customer service, and Dirk at Pacific Jets. He has been such a great help in the past, and every time I've needed a question, Dirk is infinite knowledge in jets, so just a great guy to deal with. So now you can see the tray is completely done in there. This is just light ply with monocoat on it. I just really like the cleanliness look. We have a T1 controller, again from Dirk at Pacific Jets. Really enjoy that for the controller. Now, I know lots of guys like gyros. I like gyros. I don't mind gyros. But whenever I'm building these kind of airplanes and I'm trying to fine-tune everything, I try to leave the gyro systems out. So this one is just running a Futaba with a smart fly board. Still really enjoy the smart fly systems. As we come around the airplane here, I also am a big old fan. I'm just an old builder. I like turnbuckles. It makes ease of fine-tuning an aircraft really nice and easy. So again, you'll see those little 440 screws that we put in T-nuts on. It just gives it a really nice clean look. Hopefully you guys can appreciate that. The gear doors, again, I definitely misspoke a couple of times. You'll see those marks right there and where I replaced them to. It was 1.25 inches is where I set that. And you'll see that these are on 2-inch arms, but I'm only at 1 3/4 on the holes. And that really has helped. And again, I like it to where my arms almost come vertical, because that way it really holds the doors and helps the stress on the servos as it's flying along. I found that it really helps with the amp draw on the servos. So another thing to talk about, thank you, Colton, so much for your advice on this. So this airplane, the first one would fly, and as you'd throttle up really hard, it would pull up just lightly under full throttle. And I really want to address that just a little bit. So I was curious, do I point my tube up? You know, do I point it coming down in the back? Or do I point it up to cure that? And Colton says, no, you raise the nose, dropping the tail down to push the airplane down. And we're going to try that. We're able to get the motor shimmed, and it fit, hopefully you guys can see in there, it fit really nice. Again, if you followed along through this whole process, really appreciate you guys. Please like and subscribe. My goal this year is to do more of the Fly RC Joe workshop stuff. Some of the videos are going to be very short, like the muscle bite. That's my next one on my project list. But there's not a lot of mods going into that airplane. So I'll do a review video, basically an unboxing video, some flight videos, and I will show you if I do any mods. But that's where Fly RC Joe's workshop is going to go this next year. And I super appreciate you guys joining along. And we'll see you after the maiden flight. Thanks, guys.